Hey, I'm Techie Teee, and today I'll be talking about the revolution of decentralized data, or also data for Degens, and how we can bring more decentralization to data pipelines. IDC Global Data Sphere estimates that there's currently 175 zettabytes of data. This is enough data to wrap around the world multiple times. That's a lot of data. And this data is only getting even more robust when we consider the Web3 data that's being produced with every single transaction across protocols. Data also has a tremendous value economically, and when it also goes wrong, it has a tremendous impact. According to MIT Sloan Management in 2017, they estimate that nearly $2 trillion is lost every year in economic impact through poor data infrastructure and poor data quality. Data ownership and data quality matters. It matters because when we don't manage data infrastructure properly, it increases the risk exposure, it decreases regulatory compliance, it impacts data accessibility, traceability, and also the integrity of the data that is present. This is especially true in high-stake sectors, such as legal, finance, and medicine. This is where it's even more important that we get it right and we make sure that we have the proper data infrastructure in place to give the best outcomes possible for the business decisions being made. In my perspective, centralized data is equal to vulnerable data. We only have a few major options available for cloud providers. And even for a lot of the dApps that currently exist in the ecosystem, they still rely on Web 2 tooling. If you remember earlier this year when AWS had a major outage, that took out a bunch of dApps with it, right? And I think that that's not sustainable long term when we think about having the most reliable and robust data infrastructure available. We need to continue to think about how can we make more decentralized data pipelines and create more robust data infrastructure. So we have to redefine the data lifecycle. Here are three main areas of opportunity where I think we have the chance to do this: the hosting, the storage of the data, and also the query and transformation of the data. So here's a side-by-side comparison of the tooling for Web 2 versus Web 3. So when we think about hosting, we have our major cloud providers like GCP, Azure, AWS, Oracle, and then also hosting your code for smaller projects on GitHub. Then in the Web 3 side, we have IPFS, Nextcloud, Textile, Diode, and Radical. And the difference between these two groups of hosting options is dramatic. With GCP, AWS, and Azure, and the other hosting providers, you have tiered gated features based off how much you're able to pay. That also impacts how redundant your data can be, how accessible it can be, and it makes it limited to the users who can pay the largest bills. With Web3 hosting, that changes. You're democratizing more robust accessibility and also traceability for data. Then you also have the consideration of the databases themselves. So GCP, Azure, AWS, and Oracle all have their different sets of databases available within them. But there's a growing group of decentralized databases that are becoming available, like BigChainDB, Ceramic Protocol, Textile, Diode, Covenant SQL, and NOMS. These tools use a combination of traditional SQL approaches with decentralized databases to make the data more readily accessible and available. To me, I think that this is an underutilized opportunity for a lot of dApps. A lot of dApps still can use traditional databases, and as I said, it creates a major fault opportunity for the dApps to fail if there are ever any outages in our, one of our top 4 cloud providers that are currently available. But I think the biggest opportunity for making more decentralized data pipelines exists in the transformation environments and how you can do the queries. So some of the biggest private providers are Databricks, GCP BigQuery, and Azure Synapse for traditional Web 2 side. And then on the Web 3 side, you have some companies like Flipside, Dune Analytics, Chainlink, and Graph. So these providers use a combination of APIs, oracles, and traditional SQL queries to be able to search what's happening in the blockchain data. But there's also a big part that's being left out of this, When you go to your more mature Web 2 environments for manipulating data, you can do like large batch processing, manipulation, transformation of the data, machine learning, all in one spot. Whether it's GCP, Azure, AWS. Currently, nothing really like that exists for Web 3. The closest thing we have to it are some protocols like Ceramic that are continuing to make progress in making like streaming available and being able to segment the data, but we still have a long ways to go. But just because we have a long ways to go doesn't mean that we shouldn't use some of the tools available to make our pipelines more decentralized. So thinking about, hey, can I, instead of hosting my software on a centralized, cloud provider, can I use a decentralized server? Can I instead, think about, a decentralized database? And from start to finish, thinking about what pieces can we progressively put in that are more decentralized that can make the data more reliable, accessible, and increase overall data quality in the ETL pipelines for blockchain. We still have a long ways to go, but maybe the next iteration of how this will look for Web 3 is mixing in some of the good pieces from Web 2 and the innovative pieces we have from Web 3 and having more decentralized data pipelines available. So I'm excited about that, especially like Apache Big Data tools and how we can combine that with some decentralized tools and make some really innovative stuff for decentralized data pipelines. So yeah, we still got more work to do in this area, but it's exciting to me. I think this is like the infrastructure that supports the next few million people coming into Web 3. Like, I love our NFT projects and metaverse plays, but we also have to think about what are the bones and the structure that's going to help to support the Web 3 ecosystem at scale. And I think this is like a really important topic, and this is why I wanted to share briefly about it. So I'd love to answer any questions anybody has.